Hello friends, so in that last video we did was made this solar system and we learned a little bit about rotation and transformation matrices. And in this video I'm gonna get rid of all that code and we're gonna make a landscape. So I'm gonna start again with a setup function. And remember, we need to now, with our wegbgl canvas, we need to pass in the canvas width, the canvas height, and also this all caps wegbgl declaration. We are seriously in 3 dimensions now. And I'm going to make a draw loop. And in my draw loop, I'm going to have a background. You know what? I think I'm going to make my background be blue. It's just a feeling. Some kind of blue sky thing happening, right? And you know what? Let's do something more like this. Yeah, so something a little bit, some kind of a slightly happier day. And I'm noticing again this border. I don't know if you remember from other videos, the way to get rid of that is with a style tag. You know, if it bugs you, it's not important if it doesn't. And we'll just say body margin 0. And now we got rid of that little white border around there. There's still another white border, but you know, you do what you can with those white borders. So we've got this background, and let's just draw an ellipse again. So we're gonna not a file list. A file list or file list. We're going to draw the sun color here, and I'm going to make the sun color this ellipse. We could also use a sphere. You can do as you wish, but I just want to, I think for myself, and I'll show you why in a second, use that same color we were using in the last skit. I almost said last video. And this sun we're gonna put at, let's just put it at let's see, 0, 0, and sun size. So now you can see we've got this sun size. Maybe I'll just say here, sun const sun size equals 100. And so now we've got that ellipse. It's right at the center. And that's all good. I like that. But I think what I want to do with my sun, and maybe you saw it in my other sketch, I kind of liked the way that the ellipses broke down, and I think it's maybe a little bit interesting. So, you know, what we can do is add, let's see, we'll add a stroke to it, and you'll see that'll look kind of funny as we try to, and so we'll call this a sun ring color, and I'm gonna give it a stroke weight that's kind of beefy, and this sun ring color is gonna be, let's see, 120, 120, and 20. And so now we get that. It's kind of cool the way I kind of like the way that it degrades as it tries to interpret this shape in 3 dimensions, right? We have these spaces between these little chunks. So I sort of like that little artifact. And I'm gonna actually move all this into a function. Shocking, I know. We'll call it draw sun. And For this draw sun function, I think what we'll do is actually bring in an x, y, z, and size. No, we don't need that. Yeah, we'll bring in the size. No, we'll just get it from the constant. So this x, y, and z. And in here, I can push, and then at the bottom, pop. So everything, again, between the push and the pop is going to get drawn in its own sort of separate transformation matrix. Or everything that, any transforms that I do out here, so I can, let's do a little translate, and we'll just say 0, negative 500, 0. And we'll see, oh, negative 500, looks like it went off the screen. Negative 100. Right, and so it's getting up there towards the top of the screen. 400, we should still see it a bit. 450, still a little bit. But 500 clearly is off the top of the screen. Now, if we want that to move down, we can move it down on the y-axis. We can also move our camera back, right? Our perspective. So we move back and we get a little bit more on the top. So, say we move back 1,000. Now we have a smaller sun, and it's farther down. And that's just the rules of the game, man. That's the way perspective works. So we now have a lot of different things we can play with. But I'm going to take this translate out of here because we don't want to move everything down by that. If I want to move my sun, rather, what I'll do is put it in here. And let's see, we're going to translate by x, y, and z. And then when we call draw sun, we'll pass those in. We'll say we're going to keep it right in the center. And then we're going to say negative canvas height over 2. And we're going to say negative 500. And so there we go. We get it positioned kind of nice. It's shocking. It's almost like I did this before, isn't it? We can also, a thing that I mentioned in the past that sometimes I do and sometimes I don't. We can change the angle mode back and forth from between degrees and radians if we want to. And I'm going to do it as degrees just because sometimes those degrees are easier for people to get with until you spend a lot of time with pi and are comfortable with the idea that 2 pi is 360 degrees. Pi is it 360 degrees? See, I'm not even necessarily comfortable with it. Am I comfortable with it? I'm not sure. No, I think 2 pi is 360 degrees. But we're just going to keep it so that 360 degrees is going to be 360 degrees. And what else do I want to do with this sun? I think I'm just going to leave it like that. I think in mine I put a little red ring around it, but I don't think I need to. I don't feel the need to. So I'm just going to keep it like that. And, just like before, if we wanted to, and let's go ahead and make an angle. And we can rotate that. How do you get from rotate to speech recognition? I have no idea. So we're going to rotate by this angle, and the angle will increment in our ever-running draw loop. And we'll see, now we're rotating on the Z. I'm going to rotate on the Y-axis. And we see there's our sun. And now we get even more distortions. You can see like all the pretty ways in which this WebGL renderer is not really understanding why I'm using an ellipse. And why are you using an ellipse with a stroke? Boy, what a silly person. But I kind of dig it. So I'm just going to leave that. And the next thing I want to draw is going to be the ground. So we got the sun, and we got the ground. And when I draw the ground, what I'm going to draw is a box. And this box is sort of the, three-dimensional, you can imagine. It's just like a rect, but it now has a third dimension. And so this box, let's just go ahead and make it canvas width to start with. And we'll make it canvas height. And, we can make it 1 if we want to. And you can see it's totally filling everything up. All I see is this white box. If I make this I'm going to give it a color. So we'll have our ground. And I'm going to give it a, obviously do whatever you like with this, but for me, what I think I'm going to do is make it brownish. And so we're going to make it 90, 60, actually, maybe make it a little bit lighter in keeping with things. So this sketch going to be a little bit different than the one I was showing you earlier, but in every useful, important way, it'll be pretty similar. You can see we're getting this box. We have this box. It's canvas width by canvas height. We can't even see how deep it is. It's only 1 pixel deep. We might want to make it deeper. Maybe I'll make it a little deeper. Make it 5. Let's make it 10. Nice round number. Now, I bet you can guess what we need to do to have it not be blocking our sun, which is to rotate it on the x-axis. So we'll do a push pop, because we don't want to rotate everything. We just want to rotate this box. And there we go. Now we're completely flat. So I rotated it 90 degrees on the x-axis. That's really probably not what I want, because I want to pretend that there's some space in this scene. So if I rotate it by 70 instead, now I'm starting to get something that looks more like an actual scene, right? It's the way we think about three-dimensional space. It's very crude. I'm going to multiply this canvas width by 2. And you'll see it scales it in both directions, because that size is from the center. So now it's double the canvas width, and the reason why canvas width doesn't fill up the whole thing now is because we've moved where our camera is by default 500 back. So if we want to see that filling up the whole thing, we can translate. Move forward, and now we see it fills up the whole thing. But, I kind of liked it when we were farther back, so I'm going to take that away and just make a bigger box. And probably make this also bigger. So now we've got this expansive scene, and you can see it's not quite covering the whole thing. And again, there's a number of ways we can handle that, but I'm just going to go ahead and make it really big. So now it's our world is stretching, and cool thing is we can rotate to see the edges of that if we want to. Let's rotate on the y-axis. We'll rotate by angle. Let's call it angle 2. and angle 2 is going to be plus equals 0.01. So it's gonna be a slow pan, and now we're gonna rotate the whole thing. That's a little bit too slow of a pan, I think. Rotate Y. Let's make this. Let's just go 1. And so now we're really zooming through. Did I do something wrong there? Rotate Y. Angle 2. I would expect that to, in fact, stay flat. Let's bring this, that. Doesn't help. All right, we're gonna have to come back to this because I'm having a little bit of an issue with myself as to why that is. Why this guy is doing what it's doing. But we'll come back to that. So, but you can see we're kind of moving through it, and we can see how there's more space there. We can see the whole extent of it. We can see our sun, or we can turn off this rotation and just see what we want to see. And so that's just what right in front of us. We have our blinders back on. How nice is that? All right, so the next thing I want to draw is I'm going to put a road on top of this. And I think I'm just going to do that with inside my draw ground. So we'll go right inside this push pop. We'll do another rotation. We'll do another function. Draw road. And draw road. We're not going to need to move because we're going to keep it in this spot. But we do need to write it so that my thing doesn't crash. And we'll just say, make it black. And we'll make it a box. That's 100. And canvas height times 10. And let's just make it a little bit bigger. So now we're seeing we've got this road. It's going. It's a non-stairway to heaven. It's going straight to the sun. How fun is that? Did I forget a push and pop with the sun? I did not. So it doesn't really make a lot of sense. Go ahead and refresh this. I'm gonna remember to translate the ground down. That's what it is. So I'm gonna translate this canvas height over 4 and 0. So I'm gonna move the whole ground down here. So it's rotated down a little bit. I'm going to turn this rotation back on and see. That ground looks a little bit better. Yeah, that looks a little bit better. Still not great. No, that's not right. That is not right. But you can see the road now is extending all the way out. But it's in line with it's right on the ground. So it's actually not extending into the sun. It's just going underneath it, but my road is not tilted correctly. So I think what I need to do is tilt my ground a little bit more. So let's tilt it down a little bit more. And there we go. So now that's a little bit more like what I expect ground to do. You know, ground to be in relation to other things. A little bit flatter. We could tilt it even farther down if we wanted to. Oh, that didn't help. Let's see, 90. Yeah, somewhere in there, 90 or 100. So now we can stop this rotation. Oh, yeah, we'll stop this rotation. We don't need to spin around quite like that. And let me make this a little bit not quite as far, this road. So our road is going from 100 to canvas height times 10. That's awfully long. And there we go. So that's right to the edge of my ground. If I want to make my ground extend more, now I can make my road extend more. And now they're going to the same place. And that's just this dimensional perspective trick. Looks flat, turn on the rotation. It's not flat, but you can see those shapes are lined up pretty well. The road is on top of the ground. The sun is up above. I'm going to stop the sun rotating. That was just a goofy thing I was doing. So now we got our sun, and I'm going to stop the whole thing rotating too. All right, so now another thing I think is nice to add is some markers. Although I'm always remembering this beautiful quote by, and I can't think of which one of those minimalist gurus it was, but it was this quote about being on a road, a highway that hadn't been painted at night, and just going into it felt like nothingness. But in this case, it doesn't really feel like that because there's a sun. It's not at night. So I'm going to go ahead and paint those lines on this road. And I'm going to do it with another function. So we're drawing the ground. I'm calling draw road. I'm going to call draw lines. And I could also put those just right. Why don't I just put those in the road? It makes sense, doesn't it? And so for this function, we're going to need some sort of a loop. In this case, I feel like it's just easier to go ahead and use a for loop. And what I'll do is set the fill to 255. So these are going to be white. And I'm just going to say for let I equals 0. I less than canvas height. So quite a few i's here. And I'm going to say I++. So it's going to be a for loop. And in this for loop, I'm going to push. And I'm going to pop. And inside my push and pop, I'm going to draw a box. And this box is going to be, let's go ahead and make a variable for the mark length in case we want to change it. And it's just going to be a pretty flat box. But we are going to translate it, hence the push and pop. So we're going to translate it. We're going to have it be centered on the x-axis. And on the y-axis, we're going to use that I and multiply it times the size of that hash mark, or what do you get, dotted line. But we'll multiply that by 2. So I'm going to mark length times 2. And then on the z-axis, we'll just put it just on top of that box. So the box is, or the ground is 10. That's 1. That's 11. Maybe we'll make this be 12. Just see if we see anything. So something happened here. I made a mistake. Mark length is not defined. You knew that. So we'll let mark length equal, let's start at 20. And there we go. So we have our road sort of kind of. at least for part of it. Let me get rid of this console. And we've got sort of kind of partially a road. But what I want to do is add, I want to make this road scroll. And we can do this kind of animation just like we do in 2 dimensions. That's the beautiful thing. So what we can do is make a, that's going to be a const. Unless we want to change that as it goes along. That could happen too. So we'll say let scroll val equal, let's say 0, and we're going to add that to this. And if we make that scroll val be 10, you see it moves down. We make it be 50, it moves down farther. 150, even farther. 250, it's almost all the way off the road. So how do we make this, give this illusion of animation? We make this be negative. And I'm going to make it be negative canvas height. Times 2. Times 4. I forget how many canvas heights we have. But there we go. Now it's really quite well in the distance. And if I increment scroll val in here, then we get that moving highway kind of feel vibe thing. And let's just take a look and make sure. So we'll rotate our camera around and just see if everything's kind of making sense. Yeah, our road is on our road, and our road is on the ground, and our sun is in the sky, and everything is good. And that's pretty much what I've got for you to get started. What I want you to do now is think about what else you could add to this. Maybe you could make like a little tree or a giant ice cream cone, or just put a sphere, an extra sun, 3 suns, 4 suns, 5 suns, here's 6 suns. You could put whatever you want to in this landscape. Something that's really easy to make would be like, say, a building. So we could say draw building, and I'll put this in the ground as well. And our building, we'll just say function draw building. You could make a whole city this way, obviously. And our building, again, we'll give it an X and a Y and a Z. And let's go ahead and push and pop and translate by X and Y and Z. And we'll draw a box. And for our box, we'll make it be, what we'll do is we'll calculate a height here. It'd be almost twice as much as this Z value that we're going to pass in. And then in our box, we can say, and obviously you could go the whole 9 with this and make box objects. You could make, I think I put a sketch up on today's syllabus page where I made array from. I used array from to generate a whole array of boxes that I drew. I'm just going to make this one right now. So I'm going to say heights. I'll just say height over 2 and heights and heights. Let's make this purple. So fill 220, 0, 220. And yeah, let's see what we get. Oh, we don't get anything because I didn't give any values in. So I need to give those values, and let's just give it, let's see, let's make it 40, negative 100, and 10. And there's my little box. You can see it's on the road. That's probably not very cool. That's not a good place to have a house. Let's move it over a little bit. Make it 120. And now he's got a nice little yard. He's still by the road. There we go. 30. There we go. That's a little bit bigger. So now we got this nice. And I'm going to stop this rotation. That rotation does make you a little bit dizzy. Caution. So there we go. Now we got our. And now, the interesting thing is our road is scrolling, and the building is not, which is a little bit of an acid trip. So why don't we make the building scroll too? And we'll just scroll it by the same value as the road. And you can see I'm translating my Y by this scroll val. Oops, that's not what I wanted. Although that could also be a cool look, right? Is to just make this a really long. This is a fence. It's a noise fence. Maybe I'll leave that there. And let's actually make it be height plus. Let's just make this be canvas height over 2. Oops. What happened there? Huh. There we go. That's not very long. Why is canvas height so short seeming? All right, so there's canvas height times 2. And of course, that's the same length as the scroll value. Oh, actually, it's negative canvas height times 4. But at any rate, we can use that scroll val. That's really what I was trying to say right here. Just like I did on the road. And now that wall is going to come towards us. And let's make it come. Feels like it's coming really slowly. Times 2. Oops. Oh no, that's my translation. Minus. No. Plus. So the scroll val, let's actually make this be scroll val plus canvas height. So it'll start a little closer. And let's say canvas height times 3. There we go. Now we're a little closer, and that wall's coming right up towards us. This is a very slow moving freeway, but we can speed it up by just making that we can speed up either or this road and that building, obviously independently if we wanted to, but I'm just going to make everything speed up and say plus equals 5. And now that's a little bit quicker moving road. And we're zipping right past that building. So now it's your turn. See what else you can add to this landscape. On the P5 reference page, there's not only this page on the transformations, but also these 3D primitives. Plane, box, sphere, cylinder, cone, ellipsoid, torus, and a P5 geometry, which is pretty nifty for making your own geometries. You can also use begin shape in 3 dimensions using triangle strips, which is a pretty neat thing. I'm not going to show you how to do that right now, but dive in and see if you can make some sense of it if you want to. It's pretty complicated but fun. But mostly what I want you to do is just play with these basic primitives and see if you can add something else to this scene, like some kind of blocky cactus. Take multiple boxes and put them together and make make something and add it in here and see if you can get it to show up correctly in this landscape. And that's it for today. I hope that was helpful. And I hope you have